Back this day in history, today on Opera Day, we celebrate the Santa Fe Opera right here in New Mexico for winning Festival of the Year. That's at the International Opera Awards in Madrid, Spain. Well, we are also joined this morning by our good buddy, historian Raffi Andonian, sharing some history of opera globally and right here in New Mexico, complete with his own violin. Raffi, good to have you with us.
Thank you. Great time to be here. You know, I love opera, love my violin.
Right? Yeah. So let's kind of give everybody some background. How did opera even get started?
Opera has a long history. It kind of depends how you look at it. So, for example, you know, you can go all the way back to the ancient Greek tragedies. You've all heard of these, right? The tragedies and the comedies of Sophocles and others in ancient Greece. And they actually start applying words to music even then. They use a lyre, which is actually, we use the term lyric to this day from that, meaning applying music to words. It comes from there. But eventually that changes into, for example, biblical stories in churches and other places that are applied to music. And then you have the start of opera in about late 16th century or so 400 plus years ago in Italy. That's really when I would say opera begins. It's 400 plus years ago. It has those roots, but that's when we would start to recognize an opera. Now, opera starts to change over time. Now, think about it. Now, opera itself means work. Think of the words like opus or operate. Those are all work related, right? So opera is short for work in music. Okay. That's where the term comes from. And then you have a libretto in opera. You know, like libro in Spanish means book, library, books. Libretto is small book. So you're applying a small book to music in opera. That's how you have sort of the creation of opera, which changes over time as well across centuries.
Okay, and that makes absolutely complete sense. Opera, like in Latin, works. Yeah,
Yep.
Faith and works, vidas et opera. Yes,
exactly.
Okay.
There's tons of words.
I'll be darned. Okay, and so we're looking at some great shots here of our own opera in Santa Fe, the Santa Fe Opera.
Yeah.
What
Many of them
so
include me.
Hey, who's this couple right here?
Exactly. So the thing is that, you know, I've spent a lot of time at the opera. I'm a season ticket holder. And, you know, I actually, you know, the reason I love going to the opera is because of the fact that I played violin growing up.
Right.
And that's why I brought my violin here today. When I was a little kid, I went to a performance and I turned to my mom and I said, I want to play violin. And I don't know why exactly, it's little kid logic, but obviously I liked it, right? And why I chose violin, I'm not sure. Maybe I couldn't sing, I don't know. But that's how I started playing classical violin for a long time. And what makes Santa Fe Opera so special is that, you know, you've been there for, it's been there for coming up on 70 years. And it started as a ranch. You have John Crosby that establishes it. But there's a few things that make it special. One is the fact that it's helped shape the world opera scene. I mean, you just mentioned earlier that's won an international award. But for example, they have 18 world premieres that they've done over the course of the 7 years of Santa Fe Opera. They also have 45 national premieres or American premieres. Premiere means the first time that work has ever been done, either in the United States or the world, depending on what kind of premiere you're talking about. And very importantly, they started apprentice programs early on in the existence of the Santa Fe Opera, one of which is the original ones for the singers. And those singers, and it was kind of a model apprentice program for a lot of operas around the country because they wanted to try to keep local American talent in the United States instead of constantly losing it to Europe. And those apprentices later went on to major operas to hold major roles and to lead those opera houses and in universities. Today they also have technician apprentice program, which is now technicians. So Santa Fe Opera has its fingerprints all over opera world for decades.
Not to mention the venue itself is phenomenal. Outside of opera, I saw John Fogerty there a couple of years ago, and that was just, you know.
Oh yeah, they have other concerts. So outside of the opera season, right, before and after, they have other concerts there, in part because it's such a wonderful venue because the acoustics are so good.
Oh, yeah.
But what's really interesting, by the way, outside of those concerts, when they're doing the opera performances, what many people don't realize is they don't have electronic sound amplification. So you're hearing straight those acoustics outdoors, the singers, the orchestra. It's really fascinating when you think about, you know, just how much comes together and the unique space that is that Santa Fe Opera.
Absolutely. And of course, with the Sangre de Cristos as the backdrop there, it's just so timeless right there.
That's right.
Raffi, where can we go for more information about the opera?
I think the best place, of course, to go to SantaFeOpera.org. And when you go there, you can see some history about Santa Fe Opera itself and their coming performances. But also, I like other places. Like some of my favorites are like the San Francisco Opera,
okay.
of course the Met in New York City. You can look up operas in Italy, and you can find all kinds of different things, because these operas, what's really important is that they change over time. I'll give you a quick example. You know, you look at like Carmen. Everyone knows Carmen, right? Well, that's been around for 150 years. Beyonce did a take on it recently. You know, it's about 20 years now. But it shows you that the ingredients of opera, while sometimes we think of it as old school, they're actually constantly being redone. And a lot of those catchy musical hooks are still with us today. And even when I have my interpretations on my violin.
For the next time, we're going to get you a couple of extra violin strings there, Raffi, and we're going to have a live
I
performance.
have to actually play it.
But Raffi Andonian, thank you so much as always. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on this day.
Absolutely. For a full recap of this entire interview, we will have it on our website. That's always on krqe.com.